From the studios of the Department of Communication in Phillipsburg, welcome to Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylveria Jacobs.
Good day and welcome to Prime Minister Talks. I am Sylveria Jacobs and today I have a guest. We are in the month of February. This guest, the name I believe should be well known on St. Martin. I consider him a cultural icon, but also he's an author, and his father has made a great impact on my life. Let me welcome Mr. Jose Lake Jr. Welcome to the program.
Madam Prime Minister, it's my pleasure to be on your show.
Yes, Jose Lake Sr., I want to start there because without him there would be no you. And we must always honor our ancestors. And for me, as we start this trajectory to build more awareness of St. Martin's heritage, I think it's important that we know who this man is and, you know, where you got your roots from as a St. Martin. Tell the people about yourself and then by extension about your father.
Well, let me begin by saying I don't like to talk about myself. But I'll just say that I'm named after my father, and I don't have the personality that he had.
No.
But I try to do my part, and I try to honor him by doing the things that I know he cared about. He loved St. Martin people. He was a St. Martiner to his bone, and I too, and the entire family, we all follow him in that direction. So, you know, my father was, you talk about Jose Lake, you have to talk about St. Martin. They go together.
So what is something for, especially the younger generation who have never heard of the original Jose Lake, what would you say about him that gave you the impetus to say you want to follow in the way, you know, the love that he had for St. Martin and what he did for St. Martin?
You know, my father was strange in that sense. When I went to college, and I always remember this, I teased myself about it. And I come back home, everything was logical, you know. Daddy, that's not logical. And he'll just look at me and smile. He will never argue, just look at me, smile and walk away. Today I know why he used to smile and walk away. Because life is not logical the way you think, you know. And another thing about him that stood out was that he had that attitude, if you fell down, he wouldn't make a fuss about you fall down that, you know, parents sometimes do, that the child fall and thing. All he wanted to know if you get up. Once you get up, it was okay, you know. So he didn't, from that sense, he didn't baby you, you know. He just demanded that if you fall, you get up. If you have problem, you solve it. You know, he wasn't a complainer. He didn't complain. You know, he just took life. Like he said, if you take certain positions, you have to pay the price. You can't go out there and beat up on people, for instance, and don't expect them to beat back up on you. You know, so, and he always had that position that he did what he believed was right. You know, he was prepared to pay the price for what he believed was right.
Right. I can remember being a very young girl on St. Martin and being taken to a political rally of some sort and seeing this man that I considered a giant. His voice was resonating. He made a big impact on me. I can't remember anything that he said. I was very young. But I can remember being impressed by his presence and his words and the way he spoke. What was he busy with at that time? Because I'm in my 50s now, so that would have been over 40 years ago.
I think my father, you remember, I was always amazed at it. When I hear people often say that St. Martin people don't get together, we're not united, I always remember the times. When I was young, but I always remembered it because people spoke about it. When the three Windward Island candidates on the PPA list sat at different positions, and you know the old system of how it was, normally the leader will pick his own people, put them 1, 2, 3, and they will go down that line. And the St. Martin people they had enough of them in Aruba that they could have acquired 3 seats. They could get 3 seats, but they weren't placed in right 1, 2, 3, and they were placed scattered. And the order went out to the St. Martin people. Everybody, for instance, in San Nicolas, vote for Jose Lake. Everybody in Savaneta or Orion Star fought for and they elected the three of them. They were so united that the people them did not follow the wording from the leaders, and they voted on the St. Martin, all three St. Martin.
On a list that was scattered.
That was on the PPA list.
Wow.
They were all on the same list. So I always remember that, and I use that as a guide when people say St. Martin, people do not unite. What you realize is that everybody, when they're home, don't get along or very lackadaisical. But when they come to the real thing, likewise with the St. Martin people, beside that example, the other example of the St. Martiners who were from the north, and when they were in Aruba, they had to get Dutch nationality in order to do work. And the St. Martiners from the south suddenly started adopting them as their children and giving them their names so that they could have work, you know. So when people talk about us not being united, like everybody else, when we really have to unite, we do unite.
Yes.
And that's something that I think is very, very important. And that came out in the three elected ones, like I was telling you about, and my father was one of those three.
Yeah.
And the other two went on to work for government. He refused to work for government. He didn't take a secure job. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like his personality. Likewise, he was accepted to go to Cornell University. He was accepted to Cornell, but then because he always made a joke, and he told me this joke, he told them he's going to go to Cornell, he's going to learn labor relations, and then he's going to come back to Aruba and organize the workers. Now, how are you going to tell the leaders of this that you're going to come back home?
Yeah.
And like, that was it. He never got to go. They cut him off. But then he turned around and he said, I will not go. He had that type of person. I will not go. But my children, my grandchildren will go to universities. And it worked out. You know, I have a brother, my brother's son went to Harvard. So you can't get much higher than that.
That's excellent. And for me, he was a dynamic person. As growing up as a child, certain things stick with you. He was powerful. And then I remember his passing and like the whole country mourning. And that there was a huge funeral. So for me, Jose Lake Sr. is somebody that I continue to want to learn more about. And I feel that he's made an impact on the way things went.
On his funeral, it was something so very interesting that happened at his funeral. It was the first live broadcast funeral in St. Martin.
Wow.
And I remember walking behind the casket as they carried him. And then when they get almost at the end of back street, because I had to turn around to come back to the coffin, without anybody organizing it, without anybody saying anything, they just stop and they pick him up and they put him on their shoulders. They didn't carry him
normal.
And that's symbolic of what they thought of him. They picked him up, and I said, I myself, because I was walking, I said, oh, because I know the symbolism, you know, they carry him high. They carried him high.
Indeed, Jose Lake Sr. was carried high, and today we have his offspring with his name. And I'm sure you're interested in what we're talking about here. We're talking about St. Martiners. We're talking about the impact on St. Martin. And we have a living icon with us. Come back. This is Prime Minister Talks.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylveria Jacobs.
St. Martin, listen up. The Civil Registry Department has taken 7 services online. That's right, you can now request a family tree, local address change, migration deregistration, a registration form, request for existing certificates, transfer your driver's license, and a driver's license declaration, all online. Go to services.stmartingov.org/civil registry and easily complete a request form for the service that you need. You can also pay for the services online using a major credit card or debit card and receive certain final products digitally as well. No traffic jams, no waiting in lines, and if you're on island or off, you now have full digital access to 7 civil registry services at services.stmartingov.org/civil registry. That's services.stmartingov.org/civil registry. For more information, call 542-0652. Now go online and request your service form today.
Are you planning on getting married? When getting married on St. Martin, you have to submit a marriage intention by the civil registry. This can only be done by two persons of opposite sex. This request, whether in person or in writing, must be submitted at least 14 days before the date of marriage. During that time, the civil registry verifies the marital status of each individual getting married. If the marriage does not take place within 1 year, the marriage intention process has to start over. The following documents needed are a detailed birth certificate. Unmarried persons must present a declaration of marital status. If widow, a death certificate. If divorce, a divorce certificate. All documents must be originals, not older than 3 years, and may require legalization. Additional information and documents needed are passport copies of the bride, groom, and witnesses. All foreign documents must be translated in Dutch or English. The price for contracting marriage depends on your choice of location and day of the ceremony, whether at the marriage hall or away from the marriage hall, and will be minimum 315 guilders or maximum 725 guilders. Non-Dutch nationals requires attending an interview at the immigration department. Marriages will be performed after all documents are found correct by the civil registrar. The law separates church from state. Witnesses are minimum 2 and maximum 6. Please contact the Civil Registry Department for more information before planning your marriage.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Silveria Jacobs.
Welcome back to Prime Minister Talks. We're here having a very interesting discussion in Heritage Month, Black History Month, with our local author with a very illustrious past, Mr. Jose Lake Jr. We were talking about his father for a few minutes in the whole almost first part. And I think it's important that our people of St. Martin know what great men and women have come from this soil and made a great difference. So something that sticks with me also is that newspaper. So there was the first newspaper that he established. Tell us a little bit about that, and then how it turned over in your time.
He started with an opinion. And he always tell me that when he laughed, that's a good thing about him. He would laugh about his difficulties that he had, you know. And he said when he started the paper, he was basically opposition to what was taking place. And they told him that the paper will not last 6 weeks. And he tell them, let's make it 6 months. Let's make it. And it went on for something like 15, 16 years. Because he started in 59, he died in the year, what was it?
So in the 70s?
Yeah, 70, I think. He was 50 years when he died. I know that. So you could, and he born in 1927. So, you did a calculation, he was 5 years. And then, so he did that, and we went on with the newspaper to do, and we did that on purpose. This was a newspaper, a St. Martin paper, and we did certain things with the paper for historical reasons. Like we became the first daily, the first paper to print in color, the first of those things, with the little resources that we had, because we were very conscious that, and I lived to hear at a funeral where somebody was saying that another paper on the island was the first to go daily. And one side of me turned around and said, no. I said, Martin said, no. That Jose Lake's opinion was the first, because there's certain things in the history of a people that have to stand out,
right. You have to write them down.
And you have to write it down. You have to sometimes make an extra effort, whereas financially it wasn't profitable, but it was important to be able to say the first daily, the first printed in color, the first tri-weekly, everything basically we did with the opinion. And it was always based on St. Martin, that that you want to protect and advance St. Martin place in the world, and especially in the Caribbean also.
And then the opinion became the Newsday.
Yeah, the opinion became Newsday. We went from opinion to Newsday. And then we did that. I worked as a journalist for something like 40 years.
Wow.
I think I wrote over 2,000 articles in my life, and I did about 6 books that I did when I took over.
From your father.
Yeah.
Right. So you ran the paper, and something you said that stuck with me in the first segment was your father never chose to take the secure job. And
Yeah.
from what I've seen, you didn't either.
No.
Always an entrepreneur at heart.
Yeah. Because I think even that, I tell people the story that the professor at Harvard taught me. We went into this class, I think it was just 3 of us. I was from the Caribbean, one from Africa, and one from South America. But this professor, he was a guy, he was an Indian type guy. And the first day we went in the class, he said, I'm going to tell you guys a story. He said, the black man took his son to the bank, took him up to the highest level in the classroom, the top floor. And he showed his son everything, and he told his son, look at this, your father is the president of this bank. Look how he has to look down on everything, he looks down from the top of the floor, or the people them outside. And he told us with a kind of wicked smile, he said, that was great, huh? So we all said, yes, that was great, you come. And then he said, the white man came, and he didn't enter the bank. He stood outside and he looked at the bank, and he told his son, your father owned that bank. He's not the president, he's the owner of the bank. And then he said, I'm not here to teach you guys to be workers, or presidents, I'm here to teach you guys to be owners.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And I think that entrepreneurial spirit is something that has lived in St. Martin.
Yeah.
And you will see people, let's say, turning their hand.
Yeah.
That's what we would call it, turning their hand, making their own little change.
Yeah.
They would call it hustling nowadays.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And you mentioned something about profitable and non-profitable. But for me, I don't think it's about being profitable for you. You write for a reason. Tell us about some of your books.
Okay, let me say this first about writing. I consider writing something very special in the sense when you write, it's like gold. It doesn't rust, it doesn't rot. And it's like diamond because it penetrates the deepest, the hardest object, the brain. So when you understand that, that's why it's so important for me that St. Martin, I wanted to stop publishing when I was in the early beginning of this century, like the year 2003, 2004, 2005. I wanted to stop. But I kept holding on because I was waiting for a young St. Martiner to come, or a couple young St. Martin, and take up the mantle. They could start their own paper and move on. And I kept holding on, but then I got too old, so I couldn't hold on anymore. And I'm still looking for those young St. Martiners to come forward in the media world, because the fourth estate, the media, is so important to guide a nation in whatever direction, It's very important. So I'm still looking for a couple young St. Martin. I know the problem with the media, especially for our people, is finances. You can't expect somebody to go to university, study so hard, make sacrifice, and then come back to work for peanuts. And that's where I think we have, that problem, the challenge. Yeah. If there's a way that we could find it, that our people could do this, then we will have. Because we need them. We really need them.
Wow. I mean, you come into an interview thinking you go in one direction, you end up going completely different. And that's why I love these conversations. They're not only educational for me, but for the people of St. Martin. Something you said there about what writing means to you. I don't want to go into it now because we're going to end this segment. But in that last segment, we're going to focus on the power of the pen, the power of the words. This is Prime Minister Talks. Come back soon.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylveria Jacob.
The government of St. Martin would like to announce the 2022 procedures for paying vehicle tax. Starting January 1st, 2022, along with the in-person payments and bank transfers, it is now possible for the public to pay online with a credit and/or debit card. Visit services.stmartingov.org for more information on electronic bank transfers. The business community and other organizations are requested to submit a copy of the following documents for their vehicle fleet and/or employees: 1. A valid insurance card, 2. A valid inspection card, and 3. Proof of online payment. The above documents can be dropped off in the receiver's drop box located at the Government Administration Building. Please ensure your documents are sealed in an envelope with your company and/or organization name and contact number. This option is also possible for independent groups such as family members, friends, etc., who wish to receive their number plates in bulk to avoid long lines. Please note this is only applicable for 6 persons or more. You will be contacted within 3 working days to pick up your receipts and number plates. For more information on rates and tariffs, please visit the government's website, services page, and the official Facebook page.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Silveria Jacobs.
Welcome back to Prime Minister Talks. We're talking to author, producer, Mr. Jose Lake Jr. We talked a little bit about his father, the history of his impact on St. Martin through his writing, through his speaking, through his activism, even in Aruba. I have a couple of books. It is Heritage Month, but I would like us as St. Martin to become more aware of our history, of who we are as a people, the strength we have. He talked a little bit about the unity that we find when we need it. And I promise you we'll have Mr. Lake back for sure. But tell us a little bit about your books, and especially the latest, Kwame.
Kwame was something that I did. It's fiction, okay? It's fiction based on a lot of reality, you know? It was a book that I did. I always wanted to do it because I always, I don't apologize. I tell people I write for St. Martin people first and foremost. I don't care what other people do. I write for St. Martin people because I used to look at Carnival time, people bring in a lot of foreign artists and they will perform. And in the crowd in St. Martin, they will shout St. Martin and stuff like that. But when they leave St. Martin and they do their recording outside of St. Martin, I never hear the name St. Martin. So I said, wait a minute, we have to ensure that we have our own things along that line. So we have to be very conscious of St. Martin, especially if you are the way we feel about it, you know. So that was one of the reasons. And you know, you picked up on something, or I hear you mention it that you just tease me about it with Lasana. I hear you say, hey, you and Lasana have a problem? No. Lasana is my brother to heart. I love Lasana like I love myself. And what Lasana have done, if my father is the father of journalism, then Lasana is the father of book publishing. He have published and pushed that idea and published. I believe today we could say we have over 100 books that he have done. He worked with me for many years. In fact, his thesis for his master's thesis was, that's another thing, journalism, Newsday was considered a progressive paper. That's what he got his master's degree on. So you see, we were always pushing forward. Today he do over 100 books and he's a hermit. We all tease him all the time. I personally feel that he should be in a position where he could have a real easier lifestyle and dedicate his whole life to writing books and editing books. Because we have produced today, the old talk that St. Martin only had writers and they had books is the past. Today St. Martin have over 100 different books written by different people. We up there now, people used to come when we had the Newsday offices here in town. People at times came from other islands, impressed with his work especially, and come looking for a big building or something to see a little small, you know, with no funds and stuff. But we just kept pushing and he's still pushing, doing a lot of work along the line. So we have people. It's not like in the past where we didn't, it was my father first alone, then it was me alone. Then Lasana came in and then more come, then we have more today. Yes. So we could take our rightful place in the Caribbean with writers, we could take along that line, artistic people now. We have them now and more are coming all the time. So from that point of view, we have made great bigs. Now to tell you about this, Kwame, first the name Kwame came from Kwame Nkrumah. He was a great African unionist And Kwame Nkrumah was basically, after he had his PhD, he went under the wings of Sailor James and George Padmore, those big giants in the Caribbean mental. So I always loved Kwame Nkrumah because he always promoted African unity, Caribbean unity, those type of things. So from that point, he's the founding father of the Ghana. He's the national hero of Ghana. So the book was named after Kwame. The boy was named Kwame. It's basically a story that most of us could realize, indirectly or indirectly, of waiting to hear the results of your exam. And the classroom, the setting was so that they only have space for a certain amount of children. This boy was very bright, very ambitious. His mother raised him because his father was a playboy, but he was, so he had all of those type of attitude, and he wanted so bad to go on to high school. Now the setting is like St. Martin only have one high school, and they only have about 25 rooms, and the rich people and the influential people gets all the rooms. So he was so bright, and he wanted to get into that school so bad because he wanted to go on to study. His advisor was a man from Anguilla. His mother was raised by his mother, who was so proud of this boy. This only boy her had. But she, typical Caribbean mother, she wanted him to be, she would go around and telling people her son is so bright, he's going to be a doctor, a medical doctor. But he wanted to be an astronaut. But he couldn't tell his mother he wanted to be an astronaut because she was afraid he would go on a plane and he would die. The plane would crash. You get the feeling, right? So then it goes on, and then the school, they knew he was bright, but they only had space for, let us say, the influential people, children. So they wanted to push him into trade school.
I could identify with the story. It reads very easily.
Yeah.
And so I would recommend that more of our St. Martin people get some of our local authors' books. This one was, I must say, a gift to me from Mr. Hosile, but it really is good for us to read the stories of our people, even though it's a fictional one.
And because also, I didn't mention, the young girls were threatened with sending them to Harris House School.
Yes, the same thing. This is actually something that happened though. I must say this was part of our history. So we definitely, Mr. Lake, need to get you back. It's been very interesting for me to sit here and listen and learn from you. And I know I have a lot more to learn, of course, because even as I look at the back of your book, it says political scientist people. So I have to definitely pick his brain. And definitely hope that you will accept an invitation to come back to help to teach.
Let me say this before I go. I'm proud of you. Maybe most people don't know you, but or they don't know your parents. But in Aruba, at the Sunday school, I could still see your father and your mother coming. The first, and it seemed so almost philosophical, that the first day your father brought your mother to the Sunday school, I was there. And I looked and I was so enchanted with your mother was so beautiful and your father was so handsome. And I still remember that up to today, you know.
I'm blessed.
I still remember it. And every time I see you, I have a weak spot for you because I know that moment, that special moment, you know.
It's amazing to me. As I get older, I start to look like her, so it's a blessing.
You look just like her.
And so when the next time we meet, we'll talk a little more about that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the program. To the people of St. Martin, until the next time, because there will be more than likely a part 2 and 3 to this segment of our talk with Mr. Hosile Jr.